Pastor Brote, by the way. If you don't know that, if you've been watching this, you know who that is. I'm Steve. So thanks for being here, Pastor.
Great. So good.
So, we just talked about, last week, as you're watching this, how much money does it take to be rich? And I think if you ask anybody, very few people are going to say, you know what? Yeah, I'm rich. Donald Trump would say maybe, yeah, I'm rich. Elon Musk would say, yeah, I'm rich. They'd probably say, yeah, I've arrived. I'm rich. But most people that are millionaires would not say they're rich. Don't you think?
Oh, yeah. I've met many that fit that category. They just, more is, in fact, I think it was Rockefeller was asked, when are you going to have enough money? Well, right after this, or on to the next thing. I can't remember the exact quote, but the point was people don't have enough, even though they are filthy rich. There's never enough, never quite enough. And that's what this passage in Matthew 19, this young man comes and he senses, he knows he doesn't have enough to get to heaven. So important to understand how to get to heaven. And it's through faith in Jesus, not in all of the list of stuff that we have or make or set aside. And you told a story kind of off camera about going to a place and just looking at the mansions. I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. So we were up at Lake Tahoe near Pope Beach, and they have these, back then, what were like mansions and just like almost like villages that these rich people owned back at the turn of the century, late 1800s, early 1900s. And, they had kitchens and servants, and they weren't really slaves, but they were people that they paid to cook and teach their kids, tutors, and, people that kept the grounds up. And I was up there and we were doing this little tour with my son, and he was young at the time. He was, I don't know, maybe seven or eight. And looking at all this stuff, and back, 1895 or, all in that range. And it's all been redone and put back like it was when these people would come. Most of them come from like the Bay Area, and they had to actually, back then, they had to go to the up like where it was 80 now, and they had to get on a boat on the north end of the lake, and they had to take a boat to get to their homes. There was no way to get through with a wagon or anything, so that's how they had to get there, by boat. And these, places are just spectacular. And my son says, wow, Dad, these people are rich. They were rich. And I go, well, how rich are they now? And that just impacted him. I'm like, what do they got now? All their stuff is just still sitting here that we can see. And when I talked in the last video, how great was this stuff? It's like they didn't have cars. They didn't have anything that we have. But that just impacted him. It's like, how important is it really? How important is our stuff? And, I want to go back for a second to, nobody thinks they're rich. Well, I'm going to say almost everybody's rich. It all depends on what you compare it to. Back then, they had to hunt for their food. We just go to this place and open the door and go buy food and eat it. We're spoiled, and we drive our cars there, and we have our cell phones, which I brought up last time. We have air conditioning. And I think you're right when people say, you know what, if I just could make $30 an hour instead of 25, that would be great. But then when they make $30 an hour, it's like, if I could just make $35 an hour, or if I could just make six figures, I want to get to six figures. Well, if I could just get to double six figures, and there's no end. And so that's why I think people never think they're rich when they are. And, you know, you always look at the neighbor who has more than you. Well, that person's rich. But then when you get there, you're not rich. It's just a bizarre human nature, I think, that we have.
Wherever you go, there you are. You bring you along with you. And that's the problem. You never fulfill that until it's fulfilled in Jesus.
Yeah. So we just wanted to kind of do this short video just to make people think that, hey, maybe you are rich. And if you are rich, don't be that person that Christ talks about who is hung up on your stuff. You know, so Pastor Broad, as always, thanks for your input. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you next time.